Hey my ghouls! Today we are making some of my favorite Halloween recipes. We've got a great mix of cute and spooky, but also hauntingly delectable. They are perfect for Halloween parties, kids and adults alike, or after a long night of trick-or-treating. We will be making Witches Cold Brew, Poison Apple Punch, Spooky Pizzas, Monster Mac and Cheese, Mummy Dogs, Boo Berry Ham Pies, raw Meat Rice Krispie treats, and Halloween Swirl Brownies. We've got a lot to unbury, so let's go get started. So starting out with our Witches Cold Brew here, we are going to make a pumpkin spice flavored foam for the top of our coffee. So I have 1 tablespoon of heavy cream and 1 tablespoon of milk. And to that I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of maple syrup and a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, as well as a sprinkle of pumpkin pie spice. And that's all going to go in my mini food processor here. You could also use a little mini frother or stick blender. And I'm also adding in a little bit of orange food coloring, and we're just going to whiz that up until it becomes nice and foamy frothy. And in my jar here I have some cold coffee. You could use cold brew with just a little bit of vanilla syrup. And we're just going to put that on top with some fun Halloween nonpareils. And it's really that simple, but it just adds a little something special. This is definitely what I'm going to be making before taking my son out trick-or-treating. It just gives that little boost, but also that yummy fall flavor. Now moving on to our Poison Apple Punch. This is great non-alcoholic, or you can add the alcohol here and make a nice fun cocktail. So I'm just making 1 drink here. You could absolutely quadruple it or make however much you need, put it in a nice big punch bowl. But in a shaker full of ice here, I'm adding 1 ounce of grenadine, 1/3 cup of apple cider, 1.5 ounces of pomegranate juice, and 1.5 ounces of spiced rum, which again you can absolutely leave out. And then I'm also adding in some of this gold edible glitter, and that's what's going to make this cocktail extra special. So you just want to shake that up until it's nice and cold and pour it in our glass. I just love the way it sparkles as you swirl the straw in the glass. It just really looks magical. It would definitely be great for a kid's party, like I said, and a nice big punch bowl, minus the rum, obviously. But it's also a really fun cocktail for the adults. So now we are moving on to our spooky biscuit pizzas here. So what I'm doing here is just prepping some of the ingredients. You can really let your imagination run wild here. It's so fun to do with the kids. So I'm cutting up some green bell pepper into strips, and I'm making some rings out of olives for eyes. And then I have a can of regular biscuits here that I'm just going to flatten out. And then some of the ingredients I have are cookie cutters, some slices of mozzarella cheese, pepperoni, pizza sauce, olives, green peppers, and some shredded cheddar cheese. So I'm just going to show you some of the designs that we made this day. We cut out some ghosts in the sliced mozzarella. We also made some mummy pieces using strips of mozzarella and olives for eyes. Pumpkins using the cheddar cheese and a green bell pepper for the stem. I tried to make a grave that said rest in peace and pepperoni. It didn't work out so well, but that's what's fun about this. It's really great for a party, and again, even as adults. I mean, before we had our son, we always threw little Halloween parties. It's just always something we've enjoyed. Brings out the kid in us again. And it's just always a really good time. So once we are done assembling the pizzas, we are going to put them on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and bake them at 375 degrees for about 12 to 15 minutes, or until the biscuits are nice and golden and the toppings are melted. And you can see here some of our fun finished designs. I made a spider with olives out of one. And it's just a really great way to get the kids involved and eating something maybe a little bit different. And I also love using the biscuits because they're really portable this way, so if you are having a party, people can kind of walk around with their plate, and you don't have to be as worried about getting a mess everywhere. Alright, so now let's move on to our monster mac and cheese. Now in this recipe, we are using no food dye. So we will be using spinach to dye this green, and honestly, you cannot taste the spinach at all. My son gobbled this up. He loved that it was green like Mike Wazowski from Monsters, Inc., and it was a big hit for sure. So in my blender here, I am adding 1 bag of baby spinach, like a 15-ounce bag. It's about 4 cups, and I did have to do that in batches, along with 1 cup of milk. So we just want to blend that until it's nice and smooth, but you don't want to over blend it or it might kill some of the green coloring in there as it gets bruised. So then I just popped this in the fridge while we made the rest of our sauce here. So in a saucepan over medium heat, I'm melting a 1/4 cup of butter, and to that I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of flour, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, and some salt and pepper to taste. And then I'm going to pour in 1.5 cups of milk along with our milk and spinach mixture. And we just want to give that a good stir. And then we just want to slowly add in our cheese until it's melted. So I had 1 cup of white American cheese that I just ripped up and 3 cups of white cheddar cheese. And we just want to whisk that until it is all nice and melted and no lumps remain. And then I'm also going to add in 2/3 a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. So now I also have 16 ounces of elbow macaroni that I cooked to al dente. And we are just going to pour this sauce all over, give it a good stir, and it is ready to go. This is a really great one to have before trick-or-treating or after trick-or-treating, and what you can do is keep the sauce and the pasta separate until you're ready to serve and just warm up both and toss them together. Otherwise, the pasta might absorb a lot of the sauce and it won't be as cheesy and gooey, but it was definitely a big hit in our house and something that I make quite often throughout October, and probably will for many years to come. So I hope you all enjoy it too. Now moving on to our super easy mummy dogs. I have 1 can of crescent roll dough, and I'm just pinching the seams together to make rectangles. And if you see bubbles, that's why I'm swatting. Our son Jack has a bubble wand machine that is a jack-o'-lantern that was tucked away in storage, and this day we were getting the decorations out and he was having a blast. So anyway, so I'm just cutting the crescent rolls into strips here, and then I have my hot dogs. Now this crescent roll dough would make about 6 to 8 hot dogs depending on how much you use, so if you're doing more than that you may need more cans. But we're just going to wrap the dough around the hot dog like a mummy's dressing, and you just want to make sure you leave a little space for the eyes that we're going to put at the end. And then we just want to place those on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and bake at 375 degrees for about 13 to 17 minutes or until they're nice and golden brown. And now I have these fun candy eyes here that I will link down below. I got them on Amazon. And there are 2 ways you can attach the eyes here. You could dip them in a little bit of yellow mustard and place them on the hot dog, or if you have a kid that doesn't like mustard, you could take a little thin strip of American cheese and place it on the hot dog when it's still really hot. And when that slightly melts, you can stick the eyes on that way. These are just so much fun and really cute. And again, it's nice that they're a little bit more handheld, so you're not making a big mess. So now we are going to move on to our sweet stuff, starting with my blueberry pies. So I have 2 sheets of puff pastry that I thawed out, and I am taking my ghost cookie cutter here and just cutting out as many as we possibly can. And then I have 2 piping tips here, 1 small for the eyes and 1 larger for the mouth. If you don't have piping tips, you could also just use a toothpick and kind of wiggle it around to make the hole bigger for the mouth. But we just want to do this on half of the ghost cutouts. So then on the other half of the ghost cutouts, we are going to put some blueberry pie filling. I actually had some in my freezer from over the summer. You don't really need a lot, probably about a half a cup. You could also make your own. But we just want to spread that on, leaving a little bit of a border around the edges. And then I'm just dipping my finger in a little bit of water and just running that all around the edges of the dough. And we are going to stick our ghosts with the faces on top. And then I like to take a fork and just press around the edges just to really seal them. And then I like to take a little bit of milk and brush it on the top just to make them a little bit more golden and shiny. And we are just going to put those on a parchment-lined sheet pan and bake at 375 degrees for about 18 to 20 minutes or until they are nice and golden brown. And while they are cooling, we are going to make our glaze. So I have 1 cup of confectioner's sugar that I am mixing with a teaspoon of lemon juice and a teaspoon of milk. You may need more or less depending on how much sugar you want, but you want this to be a little bit runny. And then when our blueberry pies are nice and cooled, we are going to brush the glaze on top and let that set. And these keep for about a couple days at room temperature. You could pop them in the refrigerator and they will last for about a week. These are just so much fun. It's actually a nice special treat for a breakfast. Not something I would normally serve for breakfast, but it's a nice little pastry. It's fun. And you can't go wrong with that classic blueberry and lemon combination. So now we're going to move on to our raw Meat Rice Krispie treat. This one is something that me and my husband did many, many years ago to pull a prank on our friends to make them think we were eating raw ground beef, which it did work very successfully. Now this does use red food dye, and I know, some people don't like giving that to their kids, and that's totally fine. It's also kind of a gross dish, so I feel like this would probably be aimed more for adults or older kids. But what we're doing here is just making our typical Rice Krispie treat blend. I have 1 stick of butter that I melted and 1 bag of mini marshmallows. But we just want to melt that all together and add in our red food coloring. You want it to be darker than what you want the outcome to be, because the Rice Krispies will definitely dilute that and they will turn out more pink. So I always add a little bit more red. And then to that we are going to add 6 ounces of Rice Krispies, or about half a box. Now you want to work quickly before these cool, but what I have here are these styrofoam craft trays that look like the meat department. You could also get them from your local butcher. Because I wasn't 100% sure if they were food grade, I lined mine with parchment paper. And what I'm doing here is just forming what looks like a log of ground beef and also raw meat burgers. And again, I always like to spray my hands with a little bit of cooking spray and, again, work quickly before they cool down. So then once they are fully cooled, we're going to wrap them with some plastic wrap. And then I just printed out these ground beef stickers that you would find on the packages in the grocery store. I will have the picture linked on my website, so you can download it. I didn't have any sticker paper, so I just used a little bit of tape to stick it to the package. But again, it's just so gross, but it's also so fun. I will never forget the look on our friends' faces when I was cooking dinner and I pulled a package out of the refrigerator and just started eating it, and they were like absolutely mortified. One thing you guys may not know about me yet, I am a big prankster. But anyway, let's move on to our final one, which is our Halloween Swirl Brownies. So the top is a cheesecake layer, which I love the combination of cheesecake and brownies. So to make our cheesecake layer, I have 8 ounces of room temperature cream cheese in the bowl here, and to that I'm adding a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1 egg, and a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and you just want to really whip that up with a hand mixer or in your stand mixer. And then I'm going to add some orange food coloring, which I did not have, so I just did a blend of yellow and red until it reaches the desired color. And then I also just made a box of brownies according to the directions. You could absolutely make them from scratch. But what you want to do is pour almost all of the brownie batter in, reserving about a 1/4 cup because we're going to put that on top. In an 8x8 pan, I like to line it with parchment paper so it's easy to pull them out and cut them. So then we're just going to add the cheesecake layer on the top of the brownies, and then dollop the rest of the brownie mixture on the top of that, and then take a knife to swirl it around. And then we just want to bake that at 350 degrees for about 35 to 45 minutes, or until everything is nice and set. And I just let them cool right in the pan and then keep them stored in the refrigerator. And they will last for about a week, if they last that long. Well, I really hope you enjoyed coming along and making some of my fun and spooky Halloween recipes today. I'm a big fan of Halloween. And growing up, we always made fun Halloween food and dressed up and decorated the house, and I try to do that for my son as well. So I hope you enjoyed. And if you give any of these a try or just want to say hi, please be sure to leave me a comment. I love hearing from you guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching to the end. If you celebrate Halloween, I hope you have a happy and safe one, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.